Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Breaking It Down with Boston. I am your host, Cleon Boston, your second favorite Boston, even though I really do believe, I've been told I'm getting up there, but for now, still your second favorite Boston. And I'm joined today by two beautiful women who I am so proud to say are my friends, like friends and family all in one. And we're part of what we call the OG Black Mama Network. And believe me, I'm just learning what OG meant today. But I'm all excited to have Malika Horston with me. She is the mom of Jasmine and Jordan Horston. And then I am very excited to have with me Monique Jones, and she is the mom of Cameron and Haley Jones. And of course, I am the mom of Alexis and Aaliyah Boston. Ladies, welcome. Thank you for your time. How are you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Y'all know I sound as excited as I am, so I want to hear.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
very
you.
excited to be here with you ladies.
Very good, very good. Well, you know what? We have had so many discussions over the time. All of us met through basketball, and I am so thankful again for that sport. It has not only changed our children's lives, but it has changed our lives. It has brought relationships that I probably can't even envision my life without. And two of you are in such positions, and I'm so thankful. But we've had so many conversations about our children over the years. And this podcast, I started it because I said I wanted to be relatable to people, to families. And one of the things that's really, really important to me is talking about our faith and how it has played a role in our lives. And I've shared that with our audience already for me. How has faith, and not just with Haley and Jordan, but just with being a mom, navigating two young ladies, for you, Malika, a son and a daughter, um, for you, Monique, just how has your faith helped you and to help you raise your children to become the wonderful, productive young adults that they are today in society?
Malika, you go first? Yeah.
For me, my faith is everything. I don't do anything without God. Everything that my raising my kids have been surrounded around God. And we try to instill in them that you pray about everything, and it's gotten me through the hard times, the good times. It's gotten my girls through things when they, and this is just life things, when they didn't know what to do or where to turn. And I've instilled in them that when I'm not around, because I try to be there, present as often, but God is always first. And without my faith, I don't believe that I would be able to get through a lot of things. Just being a parent, especially in today's society, wouldn't been able to get through any of it. So my faith is everything. And I'm just so appreciative to God, and the fact that my girls have taken on him for their own relationships, because it's one thing to try to tell your children about God and and allow them to hear what you have to say, but when they start to obtain a relationship of their own, they can't go wrong. No matter what's going on, they know where to go. And that right there has been everything. I mean, that's all I can really say is everything.
Yeah, I think for me, both Cameron and Haley went to religious schools throughout high school. which was very important to them, and just instilled a lot more understanding about the Bible. Um, Not just the things that they learned from going to church when they were little, especially like going to church with my mom on Sundays and going to Sunday school, and just learning about the Bible with their grandmother. But it was when they're older, I appreciated it more because they got to have an understanding of it for themselves. And the main thing I always used to say to Cameron and Haley, and when it comes to religion, is I feel that a little bit of religion is good for everyone. You can always take something from it. And one of the things I also try to instill in them is what's for you is for you. And just learn how to be very giving people. And it's okay to be competitive, but it's also to understand that what's for you is for you and what's for somebody else is for somebody else, and not to be jealous of anyone. And I think learning the Bible at an older age throughout high school just really reinforce that understanding of how to be a caring and giving person.
Excellent. And I need to make an apology right in the middle of this because I introduced these two ladies because they're my friends. We text all the time. We talk all the time. I mean, we're to the point that we just FaceTime and we don't even know if we're free. But Malika has a very supportive and loving husband who is the father of Jasmine and Jordan, and that's Lee. And Monique has a wonderful, happy belated birthday, Patrick, wonderful husband who is the dad for Cameron and Haley. And that's Patrick Jones. And of course, Al Boston, who is the comedian of our family, the love of my life, and the father for mine. But all of us have wonderful husbands who've been really supportive, but I neglected to introduce their second half when I introduced them. But that was really a foundation for me. I think Monique and I have had so many conversations about faith. I'm starting to get her to say, Cleon, if you pray about something, I gotta pray the opposite because somehow you're hearing things that I'm not hearing. And Malika and I, we've had some long prayer calls where we're actually praying about whatever comes up. And it don't even have to be basketball related. And that is one of the great things of our relationship. So one of the things that I did a interview with Alexis and Aaliyah, and I remember immediately after Malika reached out and we were talking about our girls and even though they're so different, how much joy they both brought us. And it was crazy, like clockwork. Monique reached out to me and she was like, I was just watching this. And I say, oh my God, we have to do an episode. We have to do an episode on the fact that we have two children. And I'll just lay a little groundwork for the backstory of it. We have two wonderful young adults as our children. One that is a famous basketball player, very wonderful part of society, wonderful young women. And then we have two wonderful, talented, beautiful second children who are all the older child, nonetheless, the older of the two. And then sometimes you run into situations, and I don't think it's intentional, but a part about talking about families on this podcast is knowing and acknowledging that our children, no matter what role they play in life, are gifts from God and are seeds from God that we have the responsibility to nurture, to love, to give sunlight. And you can take two plants that you purchase at the same time and you put them in the ground the same day. And they're getting the same amount of sunshine, the same amount of rain. When you go water one in the morning, you do the next. And then, but they grow differently. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with one versus the next. That doesn't mean that one is more valuable than the next. And I feel that I've used that analogy a lot with kids when I've spoken to parents about the importance of cultivating the best in our children. And I felt like that's something we needed to discuss. And it was crazy because I spoke with the two of you on separate occasions, the same day, I believe, though. that we've all had similar experiences, and I thought it would have been good to share. We both have wonderful children, but somehow the society we live in, the community we live in, they see one most of the time because they're famous and they're on television. And I've had people come up to me and say, how is this superstar? I said, they're great. Either they think I can't understand pronouns, or they think I'm lost. And I know that you guys have probably had similar experiences. How do you navigate giving attention to each child without it overshadowing or downplaying the achievements of the next one? And that is something I think as a family, like we actually paid attention to that. Alexis and Aaliyah have the most loving relationship. And people will come up to me and say, how does Alexis navigate Aaliyah, you know, always in the media? I said, Alexis is Aaliyah's biggest supporter. Those are my words. And they're not makeup words, they're genuine. Like Alexis would come to me when Aaliyah was in school and say, Mom, did you see how that girl went down with Aaliyah? She only doing that because Aaliyah is this good. And she only doing that because like she is Aaliyah's biggest supporter. And some people find that hard to believe. But it's because I think Algie and I, we went above and beyond in making sure our children both know that we love and value them for who they are and that God has a plan for each of them. I mean, any child today you hear 24 years old, working on their masters, doing this, doing that. One is a coach, people would, it's a great life. But all of a sudden, because they have a sibling who's in the media and the limelight, it's almost like they don't exist. How do you navigate that and still, you know, not be rude or disrespectful for others, but make sure your children know their value and their place in your heart? Malika, you go first this time.
I went first last time.
Oh, yes. You know what? You're right. I want Monique go
No,
first.
Malika go first.
Yes, no, I want
Oh,
Monique
Monique,
go first.
go on, talk about it, girl.
Okay. Well, my situation is a little bit different than the two of you because I have an older son, right? And so I have Cameron, and Cameron's 6'5", and he's also an athlete. And he played college basketball, but he played at a Division III level, and played football and did all those types of sports. And how I look at it when it comes to Cameron, there is not someone who is more supportive and has more his sister's back than Cameron Jones. And when I think about us three, our friendships and just our relationships, because I've been able to be around your kids as well. All of them, the older siblings, are the biggest advocates and supporters of their younger sisters. You are not going to mess with any of them. Somebody in the stands talking about them, you better look out, because there's an older one right there. Because I truly believe the younger ones are calmer, nicer, more level-headed in a lot of ways. But you dare say something about that younger sibling, it's an issue. Cameron, how we always kind of navigated it with him is that he has his own avenues of things that he is really good at. He has his college degree. He has a great job, great career that he's working on. Just as supportive as Cameron is for Haley, Haley is for Cameron. There is no type of animosity, jealousies, insecurities whatsoever when it comes to the two of them. A lot of times when people see Cameron and Haley, people ask, are they twins? Because they look so much alike. And Cameron has to remind them, I'm 3 years older. So I'm the big brother. But I know we're blessed. I know we are all so lucky that our children are so secure in their own accomplishments and that they can be so supportive of one another. I couldn't have asked for a better unit. when it comes to Cameron and Haley in our household. Just great support.
Absolutely. Malika?
Well, Miss Jazz. It's funny because before we realized that Jordan had a talent in basketball, in all sports for that matter, her life was altered around jazz. The one thing that, as a parent, I tried to recognize exactly what my children were interested in, and I wanted to do everything I could to allow them to have the opportunity to embrace it. So whatever it was, you know, I made sure that they were involved in something. Like, for instance, with Jazz, she was identified as gifted and talented in reading and math when she was young. So she was always in like the debate clubs and the kids in college and all these different things. But she was also an artist. So we put our kids in art impact school. So most of their lives, they went to a school that was surrounded around the arts. And Jazz sang, she danced, she did gymnastics, she did cheerleading, she did track, she did all of those things. And it didn't matter, you know, Jazz was one of those type of people where she would be interested in it, and then she would master it and be done with it. And then with Jordan, she kind of just wanted to do whatever her sister was doing. But with my husband being a coach, she kind of gravitated towards basketball, and she just stuck there. Now, yeah, she was, you know, first team all tennis. She was track star. She never lost a track meet. She played softball. She did all those things, but basketball was her thing. Whereas Jazz, she was actually first playing basketball. Lee put the basketball in her hands first, and she decided that's not something she wanted to do. But when I tell you that she was at every game, in every stand, wherever, and if someone said something about her sister at any time, listen, people knew, don't mess with Jazz, little sister, because Jazz was, you'd be enemy number one. She's a firecracker. She has a very strong personality, and she just didn't back down. So anytime, hold on.
That cat. Biggie.
My family just got in from the airport, so here they are. But anyhow, sorry about that. But my girls always were very supportive, no matter what, you know, they were doing. Jazz, you know, she did a lot of different things, and we were at every concert, at every recital, at every game, at all those things. And Jordan was there cheering her on. And when Jazz, you know, like I said, when she mastered it and she decided that it wasn't for her anymore, she was still always in that gym. And to this day, if you listen to any videos, it's funny because at the Ohio State game last year, when Tennessee played Ohio State, someone had did a highlight tape of Jordan, and I can hear someone screaming in the background. And I said, oh man, that's her sister. I said, so she is her biggest advocate, her biggest fan, her number one supporter. She has her own thing that she's doing as well. She has gotten in, trying to break into the real estate and she actually just moved back from Florida, so she's back in Ohio. And she's navigating through her next steps in life. But in the meantime, anytime her sister needs anything, like she is the one, I'm on a plane, I'm going out there, you know, what I need to do. And so I just thank God that they have each other. And it's funny because I just told Jordan today, I was like, you know, I asked her something about her sister, and I was like, you know, y'all, all y'all got. and she started laughing. And I'm just glad that they have each other. And that's not something that we have to worry about or wonder when we're not here any longer. Will they always have each other? They have each other, and they know that they have each other's back. And with God, I'm just proud. I'm proud.
And that is actually credit to you and Lee, to Patrick, you and Monique, and to Algie and I, because it's so important. The same words that she just said, I tell them that's all you got. I'm like, listen, your mother don't have another child. Your father don't have another. That's it. It's the two of you. And I tell them that all the time. And, you know, for Monique, it sounds like she's even a more similar position because Alexis played sports the same way. It's just was, she played at a junior college level. You know, Cameron played at a D3 level. Alexis and Haley play, Aaliyah and Haley played at the highest D1 level you can have. So sometimes people would see that and they automatically assume that one is, listen, I have to give you a joke. I was on a local talk show in St. Thomas. And it was you know, I gotta watch my words. It was a really nice talk show, but it was an older group, older population. And this one gentleman called in and he was like, you know, you did such a great job. You know, I admire you as a mother because she doesn't have any marks on her skin. She's this, and I can't see him because I'm on the radio and he's calling in, but he's like, you know, she don't have any tattoos like these children. And so he called, and then I responded. I said, well, you know, everybody has a way of expressing themselves. Aaliyah uses her colorful hair. For other athletes, it might be tattoos. For someone else, it might be a different thing. 2 seconds later, another person calls in and he's on the same rampage. And I'm like, did I raise two separate children? I need to be able to clarify this. And I'm like, well, you know, I really thank you so much for the compliment. I think I did a great job with both my girls. And it's just one chose colorful hair to express herself, and the other one chose tattoo because she got a huge scripture verse on the outside of her shoulder. And she has one on her hand. I said, you know, at first I didn't necessarily think she needed a reminder of the scripture on her shoulder, but that's her way of expressing herself. But I think I did a great job with both girls. I didn't get another call that talked about tattoos after that one. Because all of a sudden, because Aaliyah was carrying herself one way, it was automatically disqualifying another person. And so I'm saying that to say that we have to be our children's biggest advocate in this world. And we have to teach them to be comfortable in their own skin, so to speak. And I think we've done a great job with that. So when I meet persons in my community and they say, how is my girl? I said, they're wonderful. Even if you say superstar, because I know if you know me, you know I have 2 children. So how are the kids? Works good. How is my girl? Oh, they are wonderful. And I don't make nothing of it. But I always let people know I have 2 children, and what they do on the court has nothing to do with who they are as people. And I think for us as parents, whether our children are athletes, whether one excels in the classroom and the other one struggles, whether one excels in the boardroom and the other one, you know, is doing their own business with, you know, whether they're a hairdresser or whatever their path is that God guided them to. Because I tell Alexis and I tell Aaliyah, I don't tell one versus the next. I say God has a purpose and a plan for your life. and you're going to walk into that. And I know that you guys have done the same thing for your children. That's why they can be as comfortable as, you know, in being themselves and being supportive of their siblings and not worrying about, because I tell anybody in all honesty, Alexis ain't phased one bit. And I say, listen, whatever doors God opened for Aliyah, guess what? All of us walking through them. So I leave her know I ain't got no problems either, because they know me. Right now, I don't even have a name. I'm just Aliyah Boston's mother. But I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And I know you guys have the same thing because we've spoken so much about that. Go ahead. Somebody was gonna say something? Oh, okay. So that is one of the things that I really wanted to break the ice about, because we have that in our communities where we live. We have it with the people we work with. We have it at church. And I don't think people intend it, but I really believe that all parents, no matter what their kids are into, need to take stock of that and purposely instill in your children that they are valued, that they are important just the way they are, that God loves them and that we love them just who they are and not for anybody else. Because I've seen it. I've seen it here where one child was excelling at something and you would swear that the next child doesn't exist.
Mm.
Because parents don't, you know, they feel it's just important to highlight the one. And I think that causes more sibling rivalry than anything else. I had two cousins, like one is a physician and the other one turned out to be a nurse. And they were like night and day, but the parents were so strict with the son who's a doctor, in terms of how well, when I say strict, like they surrounded him with everything that he could need. Everything was about him. But the younger one that struggled, she's one of the top nurses today. So our pad, it depends on what we sow into them. But they don't have a good relationship because she was always reminded that he was the one that was expected to do great. And so for our children to have the relationship that they have with each other, I honestly feel that a lot of what we did to cultivate that, and I thought that that was actually important enough to talk about in the beginning of this segment, because I want parents to know every child that you have is valued. They may grow differently, they may develop at different rates, but they are still gifts from God that we have, and it's our job to cultivate them. So let's get into some excitement. Our children have spent a year in the WNBA, but they went through 4 years of college. And on the ending part of college, whoosh, for them came NIL, name, image, and likeness, were the opportunities for athletes to make income, which I think was long overdue. But there were a lot of things that went into that. How would you say that when we heard it was coming, how did you, and this is for the parents that are left to come now, what did you do to help prepare your child to be able to manage this space? It was new to all of us, so we didn't quite ourselves have a full understanding. But what do you think you did or learned that another parent looking at this could say, hey, my child is getting ready to go to college next year. I'm hearing more about this. What can I do to prepare?
Well, I'll take this one from the start. The first thing was how I had introduced you ladies to the CBPA. I just feel like they had a lot of information, a lot of direction to help your students, even the kids that are still in high school that are getting ready to graduate, before they even get to college. Well, I guess NIL starts in high school now.
Yeah.
But just a lot of things, like just learning what what they couldn't do. Those are the big things, is to make sure that you take care of and find out what it is that you cannot do that can mess up your eligibility, because there are some things out there that can, deteriorate your whole situation if you don't follow the guidelines. And so that was the first thing. Secondly, for us was just making sure that they weren't just accepting everything that came along, really sitting down with them and thoroughly having a discussion before they made any decisions with us, to see if this is something that's feasible, is it something that's going to, be beneficial in the long run, or is it something that's just, somebody's just trying to make some money off of you? Because it goes both ways. You got to be understanding of who's coming in, trying to get you to, promote whatever it is that they're offering. You got to make sure that it aligns with your beliefs, and you believe in it. I think that was the biggest thing, especially at the beginning, because it was new to us. Like when we got into it, it was like, okay, make sure that you have someone that's like, maybe an agent or an attorney or somebody, it was just all these things that and options that a lot of schools kind of just didn't really educate, thoroughly to me. I feel like Jordan got a lot of good advice and information, and being local in Knoxville, it kind of, just all went through one chain. So it wasn't like no real big deal up front. It was like later on, like towards, you're about to graduate. Now you got all these people and things that's coming, and what does that look like? Just that's my suggestion as a child going into college, just to make sure that you speak to people before you extend yourself to people, and you don't really know who they are and what they believe in. And also, the one thing, like the taxes, it's just a whole list and line of things that you need to be educated about. People think, oh, name, image, and likeness, I'm getting ready to make some money because of who I am. Well, yeah, you may make some money, but you also have to plan to pay taxes on that, because they're not taking any taxes out of that money. And so, just educate yourself. Make sure that you talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, and the ins and outs of NIL, because you don't want to mess yourself up, mess up your eligibility, and then you won't be able to, to have any opportunities. So that was my thing.
Yeah, how it worked with Haley with the name, image, likeness, because it came a couple months after the national championship that year, and it basically came up really fast. No one would seem really prepared for it. I look at it like the Wild Wild West of how it was released, and how we looked at the process when it came to name, image, likeness is we went back to the stage of when we were looking at colleges. What college was she going to attend? And, doing the pros and cons, right? Of why you're going to choose that college. And that's kind of the same process that we took when it came down to who she was going to use to represent her. But also understand this, and I like to make this part clear for everybody, is that not everyone has to have an agent. It's not necessary, right? Um, it's making sure that you have the right people in place for you to help manage certain things. So when it came to Haley, when we did hire a agent for her, um, what we made sure is, and what her agency had us do was, had a separate attorney review that contract before we signed it. So that's important. Please never ever just sign a contract with any of these agents without having someone else on the side reviewing your information for you. But one of the key things that Haley will always say when it came to name, image, likeness is that there is no opportunities with NIL if you are not performing in the classroom and on the court. That is how you're getting it. So a lot of these young people who think I'm just going to get it just because I'm an athlete, that's not how it works. You have to be doing what you're supposed to in the classroom, doing what you're supposed to be doing on the court, on the field, to be able to keep getting all of these types of opportunities. Um, the the other thing, and Malika kind of hit home with this when it came to the tax purposes. When it came to Haley, we set up an LLC, which was very important when it came to managing her money. Haley would tell you she's not spent 1 cent of her NIL money. Everything has gone into accounts for her. And how she looks at it, someone will say, "What was your biggest purchase?" Right? And Haley will say, "I bought a pickleball team." Or, I own stock here. Everything is long term. Every single deal that we have put into place is to do long term wealth for Haley. Nothing is quick money grabs. And I think people need to make sure they're understanding that part. Is a lot of times someone will throw out a certain dollar amount to you. Really be smart about what you're going to accept, because then you're deciding what your value is going to be. And once that gets established, that this is kind of your value, it's kind of then hard to get out of that type of situation. And I also do know that Haley is blessed, just like our daughters are all blessed, that everything that she's making is for her and for her long-term wealth and for her children, to set them up. But it's just being really smart with selecting the right representation, getting the right type of attorney, the right accountant, who's going to help manage everything for you. And I also like this, what Malika was talking about, because it kind of goes in line probably with all our kids, is that they are only, you'll see the opportunities of things they're doing is the things that represent their brand. You're not going to see them out there just doing everything, because if they don't believe in it, if they don't use it, if they don't think that this is a good company that they stand for, you're not going to see their names on it, which means they might get passed for somebody else. But how we've said earlier is, what's for Haley is for Haley. What's for Jordan is for Jordan. What's for Aaliyah is for Aaliyah. And how I think what we always said is that every success that one of our daughters has is a success for all three of them, because they're all so supportive of one another. There's never been any type of jealousy. I mean, it's pretty amazing, right? Just how this process has worked. But just all the parents coming in, when it comes to name, image, likeness, understand that this is for your daughter or this is for your son. This is not for you. This is for their long-term wealth, and every decision they're making needs to be the best decision for them. And it's their face, it's their brand. It's not about you as a parent.
Absolutely. And I can attest for when this came out, it was just like what Monique said. It was like a whirlwind. Like, where did, you hearing all this talk in the background, but where is it coming from? And I credit Dawn and the staff because Dawn said exactly what Monique said. Your classroom and your what you do on the court is the main thing. And she had a saying, keep the main thing the main thing. So she was helping all her players, if they were interested, set up meetings with agents. She brought in financial people that told us about investing and looking for accountants and talking tax strategies. And I also, Algie and I also had a LLC set up for Aaliyah. And Aaliyah also did not touch a dime of that money because she's like, Mom, I don't want to owe anybody. So let's see what they're going to take first before we do anything. And I was so happy that we spoke to her about it. So we had an LLC. When we got representation, and if I'm being really honest and transparent, and it wasn't that something was wrong with the people, it's just that we didn't feel it was a comfort, we actually switched even after the first one. So what Malika said was important, that even when you're signing with an agent, we had an attorney, Aaliyah's attorney, review that contract prior. And one of the things he's like, you need to put in here a clause that you can, get out for no cause, like in case, you're just dissatisfied. And I said, no, we probably don't need to add that in. I'm really, really comfortable. He said, that's okay. It was a couple of weeks and I'm using that clause. And
Yep.
I was out of that contract. And even today, with Aaliyah being a pro, and we have who I consider like really the best of the best that loves her and has her best interest at heart in terms of representation. Every contract that comes from them, even after it's reviewed with their legal counsel before it gets to us, our counsel still reviews it. And if there's any changes, and that's something I find that a lot of people didn't do, because they would talk to parents and they would be like, well, she got this and she signed it, he got this and he signed because it was already reviewed. I said, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but that was also teaching our children the importance of taking your time and going through the right steps. So it didn't matter what Aaliyah would say, Mom, you see that long speech just for this one question he wrote it? I said, yeah, I'm sharing it with you so you can see the changes he wants to make and why he wants to make it. And that's how you have to develop the mindset that you're not just going to rush because it comes through. You got to make sure that you're covered. So we had an LLC, we had an outside counsel outside of the agent, and all that set up, accountant, so that when they took what she considered her money, and then what she was left with, she's like, why am I doing this? Like, what's on it for me? I said, Aaliyah, it's okay. You have to give, just know if you're making something, that's why you have to pay something. I said, you have to give Uncle Sam his, and still battling with that one, especially now as a pro. He's still battling with that one. But yeah, that's important. And I make fun all the time. And I said, we went through a process because I remember us talking. Monique, we actually took a couple official visits together. And I remember us talking about what was important for our children. We had 2 official college visits together. Our kids ended up going different schools. But nowadays, I am honestly believing that kids are making decisions based on NIL, where they think the biggest buck is going to come from. And I think, you just hit it on the head when you said parents, this is about your children. And we want to make sure our children have great experiences, have their majors. I know some that I don't care if they don't have my major. I'm going because I know I'm going to get XYZ from this program, and the people that they have supporting it that's going to give me because I'm so good on the field or I'm so good in the classroom. What advice would you give to parents when it comes to things to consider when you're looking for a school, and in terms of keeping what's important, and that's your child's best interest? I honestly believe money will come, because I tell Aliyah, I said, all good things come from God. So it isn't from the coach, it isn't from the school. Wherever you are, whatever God has for you that's good is going to find you, because he has it for you. And you hit down ahead the very first sentence you said, Monique. What's for you is for you. So what would you say in terms of advice to parents whose kids are now navigating the scene, and it seems like it's not which school best, how am I going to play, how am I going to develop? Because you have some kids go to a school and they're not necessarily developing to the best of their ability, but they're making good money.
Mhm.
How do you see
Um,
that? 'Cause this is just our opinions.
yeah, that's kind of a tough question. You know, when Haley was being recruited out of high school, and one of the thing that a lot of the coaches used to try to say to Haley was, Haley, this is not a 4-year decision, this is a 40-year decision, right? I'm sure you guys might have heard that exact same thing. It's not a 4-year decision, it's 40-year. And Haley would come back would be like, 40 years from now, I will not be playing basketball, right? So it's very important for me to make that right decision for what's going to help me the most
Yeah.
when it comes down to this 4-year decision. And so that's why Haley ended up where she ended up, which was at Stanford, because she looked at it as which which of her universities that she was looking at was going to be able to help her the most as a Black female in, living in this country. And she chose that she thought that Stanford was going to be the way that was going to help her the most. Um, but I think that when you are navigating this whole process of looking at schools and stuff like that, um, really start to look at the relationships that the coaches have with their players. Look, when you're watching them play on TV and you see the alumni in the stands, you see how many alumni are coming back. That's crucial. When you see people, when you see these coaches that are going to people's weddings or going to their, WNBA championship games, or going to stuff for, their rookies or whatever it may be. That's what you really should be paying attention to, because those coaches have such an impact on your child's experience, hopefully in their 4 years. So, like I said, when it came to the name, image, likeness, it's that quick money grab. When you're looking for your opportunities, it's the same thing when you're looking at college and you're trying to get that quick money grab. But you have to look at that quick money grab and you have to think at what cost it is to your daughter in the long run, because you can always make more money, but your child's mental and physical health is the most important thing. So don't chase that money, because chasing that money is going to chase you out of there. So go to the place that wants you, believes in you, support you, that's going to develop you, going to make you the best version of you, but also go someplace that sees you as not just
Exactly.
that basketball player, that they can see the entire picture of what you are trying to do, and that program is going to try to help instill those things in you and just help you prosper and grow.
Absolutely. Malika?
So, I believe this is determined by what you want to do, what your child wants to do. Both of you were in the room with me when we found out that Jordan's coach got let go. Remember?
Again.
We
Well,
were
I tried to
together.
get you. I tried to get you to come with us.
We were together.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I was going to go. The one thing, as for my child, she always said she wants to play basketball as long as she can, and then she wants to be a coach. And you have to figure out where you can go that has those connections that will take you to what you're trying to do. Because yes, the basketball will stop bouncing for you at some point.
Mhm.
But when you are going to a school or going somewhere that has connections that will take you beyond the court. And like I said, it depends on what you want to do. And she knew she wanted to do that. So when her coaches, the coaching staff was changed, she knew she liked Tennessee. She liked Tennessee. She liked the campus. She liked the program. She liked the connections. She liked, everywhere you look around, if she wanted to do broadcasting, if she wanted to do all these different things, there's someone there. Every time you turn around, Pat Summitt left a legacy that Jordan was impressed by. So in saying that, she decided, I'm going to go ahead and give Coach Kelly a try because I like the university. So you have to find out and really have a conversation with yourself. And, I know people's majors change because originally I went to school for sports and fitness management. Then I changed and went back for psychology, and I work at a bank. So life will take you, through different changes, and you may change your major. But if you really know, this is what I want to do, you really have to find those connections. You have to find the programs that are going to take you to what you want to do. And everybody's want to do is different. It's like the young lady from Arizona. I commend her. She decided that she wants to be a physician, and playing basketball was not in the cards for her right now. And I get it. Like she chose to pursue that. And it wasn't like, she wasn't doing well. She was a starter. She was playing very well. And she could have very well, played professionally. But she knew she wanted to be a physician. And so she walked away. So you really have to have those conversations and be serious with yourselves. I know 16, 17, 18 years old, coming out of high school, you kind of think you know, and as you going through college, sometimes your perspectives change. But as Monique said, you definitely want to be able to have people that see you outside of your sport. You got to be able to have a conversation with someone and not feel like it's just about, what I can do for you.
Mm.
You gotta, my child, she also, I believe she stayed at Tennessee to go to Tennessee because she made a commitment. She's very loyal to her word. Her word is bond. And a lot of times, to a fault, to the point sometimes, I try to tell her, yes, I know that you gave your commitment for these things, but make sure that you're getting out of it what you're putting in. And so she has to build relationships with you. And that means everything to her. If there's no relationship built or there's no connection and she don't really feel like you care about her as a person, it's not going to work. And that would have been the thing that caused her to not stay once she got to Tennessee. So my advice is to listen. People will try to sell you some things that sound good, but you really got to follow your intuition. You really got to pay attention to everything. Like you watch the players, you see what kind of changes is happening at the school. You have to be aware of those things. You have to speak to people that left and see why.
Mhm.
And you can, because they'll talk to you. That's the one thing that we did talk about in the CBPA. We, having a list where people can reach out and get information about their experiences at the school. Once they leave, either they transferred or they graduated. So, you just got to pay attention, and you got to really be clear. Like, Jordan's plan has never changed. It's still the same. She, has done all the things that so far that she sought out to do. So it worked for her. But if that's not your plan, you have to choose what's best for you. And like Monique also said, it's not about your parents. It's not about what your mom and dad want you to do and think that you should do. You need to make those decisions on your own, because you're the one that got to do the work. So
I fully agree with that, Malika. About the person has to make the decision, because I know when we were going through the recruiting process, it was really tough. So I developed a plan. I was gonna fast every day until all her visits were over. Once a week, I was gonna fast until all her visits were over. And the only thing that I prayed for was, God, make her decision crystal clear.
yeah.
And when I tell you God came true, oh, that's a story for another day. But God came, God,
Is it?
God came true with thunderstorms and flight cancellations and delayed flights and throwing up, coming in a car, and all this was for one visit. And my child's heart,
It just changed the trajectory of a lot of programs, our visits.
listen,
God must have been trying to think both Aaliyah and Haley both at the end.
yeah,
'Cause-
yeah, God came through. I kid you not. I'm saying it with laughter, but I prayed and I fasted once a week for every month until all her visits were over. And as much as I definitely agree that the decision is the child's wholeheartedly, I believe that as parents, we have to share with them our honest feedback and thoughts, and then leave them make their decision, but not without our input to say, hey, the decision is yours, but this is what I'm thinking. And I had Aaliyah saying, I told her, I said, you have to know your worth. That was the last sentence at the last visits. Know your worth. And that's because our kids have to know scholarships is on the table. Now, NIL money is on the table.
Yeah.
But you bring something to that table too. It's not you just going there because you feel they're going to give you all the skill sets you need. They're going to give you this and give you that. You're bringing your presence. You got to see yourself as valuable and know that your presence is worth something there too.
Yeah.
So it's not just what the school is going to give you, it's what you bring into that program as well. You got to be bold enough to say, my presence here will make other athletes come here. My presence here is going to change your program. And you got to be that confident, or else you're going to be hearing people tell you, what do we need you for?
Yeah.
So you got to be bold enough to know, hey, I need you, but you need me too. And for Aaliyah, my child, a little different from both of you. My child gave up living with her mother, her father, and sunshine and the beaches and everything else to chase a dream of getting a college scholarship. So one of the most important things for us is that wherever our child went to school, they must see her value more than what she brings on the court. And she must have a good relationship with them, because this is now her home, away from home for 4 years. So if you can't talk to your coaches and the assistant coaches, even if it's not a basketball thing, then if you have a debt in the family and they don't see the value and you altering your schedule just a little bit because of how close this person was to you, then And so for us, That was so important, super important. Her relationship with the staff, and not just hers, ours too. They had to see the value. And Dawn, oh my God, Dawn Staley and her crew, like they saw the value in having that relationship with the parents. And when I watch my child and I watch how she and this coaching staff interacted, laughed, she talked to Dawn about so much stuff that had not a thing to do with basketball. I knew she made the right choice, but it didn't come without a little help and guidance from her parents. Know your worth. And a lot of help from God making a lot of things happen. And for us, that was important because she gave up too much not to be happy in those 4 years. Too much to be miserable for 4 years. And you have some kids that do that. They go through that and the end justifies, they are happy, they made it, they did it. But I needed her to be happy and to know she was going someplace where she would develop. You know, they say you pick the best out of what you want. I want it all. And I give God thanks. I think she got it. I wanted all of it. A great environment. She found a voice that spoke up for her, not just as a student, but as a Black young woman in society. She found a voice that, you know, guided her, spoke to her about outside of basketball, and she had a ball doing it. So I thank God for that. And I do believe that parents, yes, the decision is your children's, but you got to give them, if you have an adverse like thought, you got to share it. And you got to allow them to make the choice, because that's not going to be the first nor the last choice that they're going to make. And all of them don't always work the way you want it to work. But if they're trusting God, even then, he says he'll make all things work for them. He'll make all things work for them. And that's what we believe. So that's why I share that with them. But I'm hoping that what we shared with parents, that's why I said I wanted this advice question to be last, because I want parents to know it does matter. Your involvement counts more so now with name, likeness, and image. Yes, an agent is an agent, but you be your child's biggest advocate and teach them to do the same thing. When you're picking colleges, make sure that your priorities, you know, even if there's one thing that's a non-negotiable, find that non-negotiable in your recruiting process and what you will not do without. I remember I spoke with Dawn. She said, my non-negotiable was a bathroom, was a nice dorm, a nice bathroom. I was willing to share a room, but I ain't willing to share a bathroom with 10 people. Monique, sounds familiar? That wasn't even planned, Monique. That was not even planned.
Malika, we will have to share our visits.
Oh, I already know what y'all talking about.
We will have to share our visits.
I already know.
We're gonna, yeah, you would.
Yes,
you would
I already know, because I was like, oh, okay.
So we're gonna have one of those conversations. I promise you.
She's talking about the storms, going to the airport, having power outages, everything. Everybody was giving all the signals.
My husband's flight got delayed and he had to drive to his visit. And in those couple hours, he had driven long drives before and he was being driven. He had a Uber or a taxi or whatever. And he had to pull the car aside and tell them, wait, and he needed to throw up. And I said, damn, what a sign. I kid you not. Same visit.
It might have, well, you know, that the visit that I had, I'm not gonna say no names, our flight got canceled and they had to try to put us on another flight, and our bags was on the flight. Something happened. Our bags was on the flight, but we never got on the flight.
Oh. Okay.
So then we ended up having to go home and try it again. And then they had to send our bags back.
So we're gonna have another one of these recruiting stories. That's what we're gonna title it. So then our audience know that they have to tune back in on another day to get that. But I thank you so much for your time, for your honest feedback. And I truly do hope that it will be a blessing to everyone that listens, whether it's parents who are raising non-athletes but have 2 children that are beautiful, wonderful, talented children, where one is, I'm not even going to say excelling over the next, because both of our kids are excelling, but where one is more the limelight than the other one, and just seeing the value in both our children, or when it comes to recruiting and name, likeness, and image, the importance of setting our children up the right way. So I am so thankful for you for joining us. I am looking forward to our next discussion. Oh my God, I'm excited, and we haven't even planned it yet, but I'm looking forward to the next one. I love you. I love you. I love you. I appreciate you all, and to my audience, I am looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Breaking It Down with Boston. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe so that you will not miss another episode when it comes live. Love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Love you.
Thanks for having us.
Love you guys.
Bye.